Hello, everybody. Welcome to our interview with an expert week. My apologies for being late. We were having some struggles and technical difficulties. As you know, that happens and everybody is kind of on the internet and using Zoom. And I think we figured it out. However, I may be neon in color, so I apologize for that. But sitting next to me here is Ron Otten of Estate Planning Solutions. And I'm going to be interviewing him this week. Like I said, it is our interview with an expert week. Ron and I, gosh, we've known each other, I don't know, probably about a year and a half or so, ever since we really started real estate investing in the Twin Cities and building relationships with attorneys. So before we get started, for those folks of you that don't know who I am Jen Green of Property House Partners here in the Metro Twin Cities. And we help out folks with their real estate in situations where they need to sell quickly, whether it's from a divorce or a probate, inherited home, too many repairs, anything like that where folks are looking to sell quickly for cash or for terms, we're able to help out in any way. Even if you're located in the Twin Cities, we do have connections pretty much throughout the country. So if you are looking for help, please contact us. We're going to have all of our contact information posted down here. And also, if you have questions during the live for Ron or for myself, please post them in the comments and we will be able to answer those live for you. So, hey, Ron, how's it going today? Welcome.
It's going great.
Good, good.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so happy to have you on. Like I said, I mean, you and I have kind of built a relationship over the last year and a half or so. And we first met for coffee. We've gone out to lunch before. We've kind of done referrals for each other. And I'm super excited to have you on to interview. So, I mean, we highlighted you in our newsletter this month because, I mean, frankly, you have decades of experience in, you know, probate administration and trust administration, whole bunch of different things, estate planning, business succession planning, charitable giving, Medicaid planning, real estate. I mean, that's a lot of stuff. So, you know, what would you say has been the most favorite part of your practice over the years?
I think the most favorite part of my practice has been meeting and working with a lot of really great people. And the kind of people you deal with is really a pleasure because it's you get to know them and it's really fun to interact. And that's the favorite part of the job.
Well, that sounds fantastic. Yeah. So I know we kind of were talking a little bit too about, you know, what COVID has done, you know, to businesses and just interacting with people. And, you know, I had interviewed a few attorneys at the very beginning of COVID and kind of talked about the changes that had happened. But now we're, you know, 5 months in. What do you feel like has been, you know, the most impactful for you, and what's changed and how has your business, you know, accommodated that?
What's changed a lot is all the precautions you have to take, and the mask wearing and the hand washing and cleansing everything around you. And just that's the biggest change. I still meet quite a few people in the office, and they when I do, I wear a mask and I take all the precautions. Some people want to meet in their home and I meet in their home. And some people want to sign documents in their home, and then we sign documents. I've even signed documents on the driveway in front of the house. So it's an interesting time.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of, you know, all of the things that you have to get done, obviously, you know, there's court involved and paperwork and things like that you said. What has been the biggest obstacle with the courts, either, you know, being closed or now being, you know, at not necessarily at full capacity? What kind of impact has that had for you?
Well, it's slowed down the process because a lot of people are working from home. A lot of the court personnel are working from home. And the biggest change is that they don't have an in-person hearing any longer. At least it's delayed for a while. And what they're doing is doing a default hearing, giving notice of a default hearing. And then if you object to it, you state so. And so that's the biggest difference, is that a lot of the in-person hearings are being delayed or being done in another way.
So what kind of, I mean, I suppose that would probably frustrate your clients some, just because things are taking a lot longer. I mean, and probate is not a quick process. So what have you seen from your clients on that side?
My clients have been very understanding. I've just explained to them, when I say the word COVID, they understand that everything is delayed because of COVID. And they've been very patient.
Yeah, well, that's lovely. The other thing I was going to say too is I know that, some of the focus, I think it's really kind of pushed people more or less to do, whether it's like estate planning or medical power of attorney or powers of attorney. Has that kind of been a big focus of your work for the last few months, 5 months or so? Has that kind of changed the focus of what you've been doing, or have things kind of been business as usual?
Well, they've been pretty much as usual. The people still do a package of documents, which is the will and the power of attorney and a healthcare directive, or a trust and a power of attorney and a healthcare directive. So they're usually doing a package. But I do get calls to do a healthcare directive because of COVID, and I do those individually. But it's an interesting time. It hasn't changed a lot. It's just the way you do it has been changed.
Right, right. So what do you think has been like, what do you think the most important thing is that people should do right now to really prepare themselves for, I mean, not to be morbid, but if something were to happen to them or a family member, what do you think is the most important thing that they should focus on right now in terms of?
Excuse me. I think the most important thing is they should be who they want to name to act on their behalf. And it should be a person in different positions, representative, trustee, healthcare agencies to act. And a lot of times people have the same people acting throughout, but you do have a choice. So I would say think about those choices, because that usually requires a lot of time, and ask them if they want to do it. Ask them if they'll serve. A lot of people just put their name down. When it comes time to serve, they say, well, I don't think I want to do that. So you want to make sure they want to serve and are able to serve. But I would say the most important thing is to find out who you want to act on your behalf, and then think about how you want to distribute your property.
Okay. So when do you think it was like the right time for someone to create, that type of plan? Because, we always hear that it's, oh, my grandparents finally put something together, or, oh, my parents have something, but, is it appropriate for people, in their 20s or 30s, or maybe if they're not, partnered with somebody or children, or when's the right time for somebody to really start planning that type of stuff?
I don't think there's a right time. Typically people come to see me after a family tragedy, and then they realize the value of the documents and the planning. But I've done a lot of planning for young people, and it's really important when they have a young child and young children and they want a trustee appointed to take care of them. So people of all ages can benefit. And so I don't think there's any particular age.
Do you think it would be based on like assets that people have?
No, not at all. I mean, it's
good to know.
It has to do, it doesn't have to do, well, it has to do with the assets as far as how they own them. And we, estate planning, you not only do documents, but you do planning about how these assets will pass. And, whether that's by beneficiary designation, payable on death, or whatever designation you have to coordinate that with the will or the trust to make sure that it accomplishes what the client wants.
Okay. And speaking of wills and trusts, I mean, I feel like this comes up a lot, but to kind of piggyback on that, I know I've heard a lot of people say to me, oh, I have a will in place, I don't have to worry about probate. And I know that's not true. So what is it that, because there's been I've heard a lot of things back and forth, more or less, from attorneys saying, oh, in some instances, probate is a really good idea for them. And in others, I try to do everything I can to avoid probate. What's your stance on that?
Well, my stance is that I have done hundreds of revocable trusts over the years. And I do have a lot of clients, very few of them say anything negative. Most of it's very complimentary comments, but probate does serve a purpose. I mean, the one example I can think of is a couple of cases I've had where the only asset basically was just the homestead, but the person didn't take the time to do a will or didn't take the time to do a deed. So we have to do a summary procedure where the court decrees that that goes to so-and-so. Well, that's something that almost requires probate to get accomplished, and probably could have been avoided. But since you already have the situation, that's an example where probate is a good idea.
Okay. So then, there are obviously some nuances then when it kind of comes to, probate and trust administration and all those kinds of things. So what do you think would be like the biggest misconception when it comes to probate and when it comes to estate planning?
Well, I think the biggest misconception is people thinking that they don't need a will or a trust. And you can come in some really bad results in that. I had a lady that came to see me a few years ago who she had gone to the probate registrar, which is informal probate, and was told that she had to go see an attorney because the intestate law is what applies when people don't have a will. And it said that she only, because there were other children of his previous marriage, that she didn't get the full value of the house. She got a life estate or the right to live in it during her lifetime. And it was transferred to the children later. So it just it's ties up the property, and it's a result that can be avoided pretty easily. That's just an example.
Have you ever seen people who come in with, like a will or something that they got off of like an online, like an online source of, writing your own will? Have you seen that to be like a positive thing for people, or do you think that's been not great? I guess is the best way to put it. Have you had any experience with that?
Yeah, the ones I see are the ones that are a problem. People have done their own will online, and then it comes the time to actually apply the will, and there's a problem. And then all these issues come up where it could have been avoided by seeing a professional that knows how to do it and to do it properly. So I just think it's a good example of where you should seek out the advice of an expert.
Right. I mean, because what I've always heard too is that, okay, yeah, we did this on our own to save money, but then in the long run, it ends up costing them even more because, the will wasn't done properly, and then you have to have it all kind of redone. Is that sort of what you've experienced here?
Yeah, I've seen occasionally I see they're not executed properly. In other words, they come from a community property state, and there's 3 witnesses instead of 2, and all kinds of technical issues. But mainly it's because they haven't planned properly and haven't included all the assets, and they could have avoided that.
Okay, great. So, I mean, we're kind of coming to the end of our time. And so I guess it's a loaded question, but one that you can answer however you'd like. Anything that, you think would be really important, number one, anything that's really important for people to know right now during COVID of what they should take into consideration and plan for. And then number 2, what would be, I guess obviously you have a lot of areas of expertise, but what is it that you feel is appropriate for?
Jen, can you still hear me? You're starting to cut out again.
Oh yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Well, I see if I can answer that. There's probably 2 issues with COVID. There's a lifetime, and then there's a at death, which is hopefully doesn't occur. But there's a lot of disability because of COVID, and that's where you need a healthcare directive, or maybe even a power of attorney to have somebody handle the situation for you.
So you'd say the medical power of attorney would probably be the most important thing for folks right now?
I think so, yes.
Great. Well, I'm going to have my intern post all of your information, Ron, in the comments here so that if folks wanted to get a hold of you for questions. I mean, Ron, if you guys take a look at Ron on Google, he's got over, reviews, I think at least, all been very, very high. He's a wonderful, wonderful person. Knows a lot of information on all those specialties. I'll name them again: estate planning, probate, trust administration, business succession planning, charitable giving, Medicaid planning, and real estate. He's been in practice over 30 years, and I trust him. I go to him with a lot of questions as well. If you guys are feeling, if you have these questions, especially during COVID, or you just want to get a consultation, he always gives a free consultation as well. Please feel free to contact him. Like I said, I love working with him, and I've loved getting to know him too. That's why I wanted to bring him on here, since he is just a wealth of knowledge and has a ton of experience. Thank you, Ron, so much for joining us today. I know it was very hard in the beginning to get this all working, but I'm glad we figured it out. So thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Yeah. And for those of you too who are looking for more information on us, we have a YouTube channel, which is Property House Partners. It's going to be answering a lot more short answer questions. So sometimes thumbing through these lives, I know it's hard to find answers to the questions that you may have. So you can check us out on there. Please subscribe to our channel. Instagram, we do a lot of our before and after pictures of some of the renovations that we've done. And then obviously online here with Facebook, we post things based upon what we're doing with our live. Next week is a client update and housing update. So we'll go over everything that's going on, with COVID and housing and the foreclosure, mortgage, all that kind of stuff, evictions. So we'll be talking about that again, unless something pops up in the next week and we have to deal with that. But thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you again, Ron. I hope you have a good rest of your day. To the rest of you guys, have a great week, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
You're welcome.